And welcome everyone to the Between Two Wheels podcast. Hope this is all coming off without a glitch and or a hitch. This is Tyler Janke. Welcome to episode 245. We are going to talk today about, what are we going to talk about? Well, Tour de France is over. We're going to do a little recap of that. Then we'll talk about the Olympics. We're going to wonder why Tyler's jerking his head around so much when he's supposed to be stable. And maybe recap some local racing here on the Between Two Wheels podcast. Hope you're all doing well. As you can maybe tell, I've got a little bit of a shag going on with a beard issue. I've got, I have a neck brace right here. Sure, I'll put it in front of the camera. Goes on like this. Wear it. It's been about a week or so since I had a crash. Actually, it's been a little over that because I crashed on a Tuesday. And coming out of that pretty good. Some nasty road rash on my back has been actually somewhat of a problem lately. So we're getting over that. And the neck issue in back, which I broke. If you could check out episode 244, I did a little breakdown of that. I've been doing fairly well, a little bit more mobile than people might realize based on the fact of what the injuries were. A lot of the pain I have right now is actually in the ribs area because they were bruised pretty bad. And then with that, just trying to get up and maneuver around, but also trying to do work. So it's a Friday, and I thought we would go over some of the things we had here last time we got together. Oh, I know the other situation. Quinn Simmons. Quinn Simmons wins a race, takes the GC, and people lose their effing mind. We're gonna talk. My phone just went off over there. Took a look, and it was Adam Meyerson saying, the more Quinn Simmons talks, the less I like him, and it's becoming more and more validated. I'm like, whatever. What do you think it's like listening to Phil Guyman and yourself talk all the time? I hate a lot of people. Who cares? Do you like them as a cyclist? Are you supposed to like everybody? And by the way, you don't know what these French and these other people are when they speak because there's not much of a translation. So they could be just as much of a dick as well. Maybe they're big Che Guevara supporters. I don't know. Are we supposed to then suddenly just love them for everything they do? No, because he was a monster as well. So you can have your political opinion. This is what cracks me up. There's so many political opinions out there. The world is pretty much divided in a sense, especially the US. And you can have your political opinions on one side, which Quinn is, probably very much a minority out there in the cycling world. And then everyone else on the other side, they think it's fine for them to have their opinions. Sure. I don't care. I don't agree with Quinn Simmons on a ton of stuff. I definitely don't agree with a lot of you else on the other things. Fine. Did he win a race as a 20-year-old? Was it pretty impressive? Maybe we'll start there. Quinn Simmons goes in. They have Tour Wallonie. I think they're in Belgium. And they start off stage one. Dylan Groenewegen, Jumbo-Visma, wins stage one. Kind of comes off the schneid. Stage two was won by Fabio Jakobsen. The little clash between those two. So he gets a little bit of a comeback, I guess, a little redemption for him for Duquoin Quickstep. And then yesterday, stage three. So, man, this thing was all up in arms. The last 30K, Quinn Simmons is in there with Lopez, his teammate, and they keep getting in little moves. It keeps breaking up. It's just pitchy climbs. It really had a classics feel to it, a lot of round, twisty stuff. Then like last 12K, Lopez gets in a little move. It kind of gets off. There's like 6 or 7. It comes back together. Actually, Quinn Simmons started to go with that move. Kind of got popped a little bit. He let a little gap open. They get off the front, but then everything comes back together. And as soon as it does, with about, I want to say 3K to go, Quinn did the Søren Andersen that you saw in the 2020 Tour de France. Just boom, takes a move. He's immediately gone. It was a great attack because people up front had been 6 or 7 had been really working. Maybe this was 4 or 5, been working hard going off the front. And then the group was working hard to catch them. And as soon as they did, everyone's kind of all a little petered out. And boom, he attacks and he goes up the road. And he goes off with another guy, wins the stage, gets in the GC. And then today's race came all down to a sprint finish. And Dylan Groenewegen takes the win. So they have one more stage tomorrow. Looks pretty. And maybe this is what Adam Meyerson was complaining about with Quinn Simmons was in the interview after the end of there. Well, first of all, when he came across the line, he said, F you or F yeah. And so people like, oh, I don't know. People are making jokes about that, but are they? They seem to be kind of upset. But I mean, no one was really the same people that I made a post on Facebook and Instagram. I said, make Quinn Simmons great again, making it kind of a humorous take about his position with MAGA and Trump. People did not seem to like that. Our own Willie Myers said, make him irrelevant again. Okay. He's a 20-year-old that has a beard and kicks ass. He's a former world champion. You're not going to make him irrelevant. You're going to have to just you're going to probably just have to hate him for his thoughts, and just do all those hate crimes that you're going to have to end up doing in your mind. And because he's going to be around, it's what it is. There's people out there I dislike all the time. I don't really care about Quinn Simmons. I'm not a big fan of his politics, but who effing cares? This is kind of where we're at. We keep having to go back down this route, partly because there's a lot of people, a lot of you I ride with. I think you're disgusting people in general, but I like you as a cyclist. Is that the way it is? I don't know. It's maybe the way it is for people on my bandwagon as well. Point is, Quinn Simmons comes over across the line. He's getting interviewed, and he's like, "Yeah, the biggest problem here, because they're like, oh, tomorrow you think you're gonna be able to hold on? It's gonna be, it's a tough race." He's like, the worst part is your road. You guys, y'all need better roads around here. Now, I don't know that he has much of a place to speak of coming from Colorado and the U.S., but perhaps he does. I don't know. Let's go into the Tour de France. So last we remember, ended up on stage 12. So we come in there. We have a few little things. We have Cav wins stage 13. This is a big deal. Balkamala for Trek wins stage 14. That was an impressive move. Kind of pops himself up the GC as well. Stage 15, they go into Andorra, and that is when we get Sepp Kuss off the front with Wout. Wout just gets in the break, kind of gets some points there for the King of the Mountain. He's battling with Mike Woods and Wout Poels this whole time, but he gets in the break, and they only leave Mike Tunisen back in the back there with Jonas Vingegaard, because they have Steven Kruijswijk up there. What a lot of people are actually missing is Jumbo actually talks about this in some of their post-race stuff, where they know that they had Kruijswijk. They know they had Sepp and they had Wout kind of up front. No one was really watching back. So they kind of made a little group, and they said, look, we kind of accidentally all got here. Maybe we send Steven Kruijswijk back to hang out with Vingegaard. And he does. He ends up sitting up with two, I think, climbs to go, goes back there. So he's at least supporting him. Tunisian gets spit out the back, and everything works out for the GC. But the Jumbo team is on the front. They're going into Andorra. A bunch of riders live there. You got Alaphilippe's in the move. Dan Martin's in the move. Sepp Kuss is in the move. He lives there, and he gets off the front. And the last climb is pretty steep, and it goes like 10K, and then they have a descent as far as the 10K to the finish or so, a descent down to the finish. They're coming up on this climb. As soon as they hit the bottom, Sepp Kuss kind of makes a move. Who goes with him? It's Alejandro Valverde. Sepp makes another little dig, spits him out the back, and has anywhere from 15, 10, 30 seconds, but going over the top, it's not a huge gap. And you're like, I don't know. Alejandro Valverde is a damn good descender. However, Sepp lives there. He seems to know this well. And by the end, he actually gains a few seconds. Alejandro Valverde comes across the line, kind of gives him a fist bump and talks to him and like this, hey, I'm not sure exactly what was said, but I think it was to the point of, hey, you've got balls the size of church bells. His descending, Alejandro Valverde actually said that he backed off because he's like, I'm going to either risk crashing and being done maybe for the season, or trying to catch him and win. And this boy is not slowing down. So kudos to Sepp. Does a great post, throws his glasses into the crowd, and gets the win. The American kind of coming back. He didn't have the Tour de France that he had last year, where he was on the front all but one day, or he lost a little bit of time, like 15, 20 minutes, I think, in one day. And other than that, he was always there to the finish. Remember up the Col de Lolos, he was the man putting it to everybody. And that one was actually won by Lopez, then Primoz Roglic, then and it came in with Port and Pogacar, which lost a little bit of time there. However, this tour has just been much more difficult for him. He's been losing time and time and time. I think he's 20 or 2 hours plus back, but he finally was coming good in the end there, especially when Vingegaard needed him in the last few days. So great stage win for him on stage 15. Then we got Patrick Conrad for Bora on stage 16. And then we got the double up of Pogacar winning 17 and 18 up in the mountains there. he was not under stress. Basically, it looked like he rode a little bit more defensively, although he wasn't quite able to dump. He did put some moves in and was never quite able to get rid of Vingegaard and Carapaz, although Vingegaard, who had dumped him on momentarily there over the top on Bontu, was not really able to, even when he was putting in some moves, not really able to get rid of him either. And then Mahoric for Bahrain victorious, wins stage 19. By the way, that Bahrain victorious also won the team prize, and I think they also won the rated team prize, which is the only team to get rated at the Tour de France, which is always a weird concept. I mean, I guess there are rights there, just don't. That I mean, here you pretty much have to have a warrant. I don't know what the warrant would be for there. That you have illegal products. I guess that's what it is. I'm a pretty much not a drug person. In other words, legalize it all. But sporting is obviously a little bit different, and I guess this goes under their sporting fraud thing. So they come in there because they said they had reason to believe, they're under suspicion, the team. So they are, at this point, they raid the team. And it could have been because of Mahoric himself. I don't know, but he seemed to be pretty upset. He gave a thing coming across the line like zip the lip, which is a little odd. Maybe he just doesn't quite get the referencing that he's doing there, or what it appears to be. And then he tells everyone, look, this win, I think, justifies the fact that this raid was ill-advised and inappropriate and wrong. And I'm like, well, actually, no, you're if they think you're riding too good and then you solo out the last 30K, maybe that's but you can't stop them. In his defense, if he's cleaning whatever, he wants to just put the stamp down. And by the way, my back, my road rash sticking to my back a little bit. My shirt, not a good combo. But that's the way it is. I didn't put a pad on. That's actually the biggest part of my crash. That's right now problematic, is the road rash on my back. I can't, with the way my neck is, can't really sleep on my side. Can't really sleep on my face, obviously. And so I got to sleep on my back, but then the road rash is all there. It's been a big issue, but I think we're able to clear it out. Anyway, so Mahoric wins that. Then we come down to stage 20. There's the last climbing stuff. We come down to stage 20. And by the way, stage 19 had a chance for Quinn Quickstep to maybe try to get to the finish and put some, get Cavendish, because he's tied at 34 wins, get them that 35th win to go over the top of Eddie Merckx. Well, no, that wasn't going to be the case, because they decided to let the group go. They're going to play all their cards in on the Champs-Elysees on stage 21. Stage 20 comes, and we have the time trial. It's not as dramatic as the first one. Pogacar didn't quite have the motor. I know there's motor doping issues that they're talking about as well, but he didn't quite have the motor that he did earlier on in the tour. But this one was won by Wout, Stefan Kung, and then we're all in the mix once again. But Wout drilling it, having a great look. He wins Ventoux stage twice over the top of that. That's one of the Queen stage probably for climbing. He now wins the time trial. I mean, the only thing left for him to do, spoiler alert, is sprint. So we come in stage 21, comes into Champs-Elysees. It's going to be a sprint stage. You know that. Teams try to get off the front, but it's always going to be. And Quinn Quickstep is going to do what they're going to do. Now, if you've watched any of the USA Crit Series, you've seen Legion of LA just dominate. They get on the front. They just kind of droll everyone in. However, Nationals was a problem because they weren't quite, and I didn't really talk about this before, but because they weren't able to control it, because the bigger teams suddenly showed up. Best Buddies is there. Avolo's all there. You've got just different, riders in general, more teams that are able to put a little bit more impact into the race. And therefore, Legion kind of has more chaos coming into the end. Well, that's actually what you saw here with the finish as well. You had, the other teams were trying to do something, and you only have Mike Tunisian there for Wout, who's in good position. Now, they did one other thing that I had heard right before the finish. I'm like, this could be problematic, which is they moved the finish line about 250 meters down the road, down the Champs, from where they normally have the start finish line. Now, if you remember this, they come through this tunnel, they do a little right, little left, kind of a cross thing, and then they hit this last right corner. And from the right corner, they usually have the lead out guy is sprinting at this point, and then boom, he's gone for 100 meters, and you get the guys going, they go 250. Now it's going to be extended, which means you're going to have a lead out a little bit different. You can't use that corner as kind of a barrier. Jesus Christ. Sorry about that. I'm in the middle of a podcast. Let's see if John will take the call. Hey, John Novikov, this is Tyler. I'm actually recording a podcast right now. What are you doing?
Get out of here. Well, is it exciting or how many people you got watching it? 2 or 20?
It's not live, so I'm just recording it straight out, and I'm not going to be able to edit this. So your phone call is now part of the show. How are you doing?
I'm good. What are you reviewing here? We got some good races that have been going on. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm sure you talk about Quinn Simmons, that guy. Dude, great performance.
I already talked about him and how people are losing their mind because he's not of the correct political bent. Therefore, he should be shunned as far as winning. A 20-year-old. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know, it's pretty despicable. There was a lot of comments about how he's as marketable as he should be, if he's going to be winning races. But, I mean, come on. He's got the beard going. He's trying to do the Belgian thing. Sure, he, maybe exploded a little expletive while he's winning a race. But, hey, that's his righteous.
I don't think that the exploding and making, the F yeah comment coming across the line should at all restrict him, unless you're of the Christian Coalition and you're really upset about that. But I don't think that's where people are coming across. So I think it's all disingenuous. Matter of fact, let me just read this to you. I just saw this tweet and I mentioned it here. See if I can get it. I don't know why I'm getting this because I don't even follow this guy. Adam Meyerson. Every time Simmons opens his mouth, I like him less and feel more validated in that dislike. But are there pros and people that you don't like when they talk, but you cheer them on anyway?
I don't know. Sure, you want somebody to connect with you on a personal level, a fantastic, gifted athlete, but come on. I mean, you can't. I don't know. There just seems to be more a negative tone from people when they're looking at somebody who's maybe held up on a pedestal than usual. And maybe that's right. Maybe there should be more scrutiny about somebody like that. And maybe as an athlete of that caliber, you need to fall into certain lines, from a marketability standpoint. But I mean, that's a call Quinn Simmons needs to make, or Tyler Janke, or Stefan. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. I mean, these are all parts of it. And, I want him to succeed on all levels, and you don't want him to be a dick. But then you have people like Mark Cavendish, cursing out his mechanic, throwing his bike at him. And people seem to be not too disturbed about that.
Yeah, they're okay with it. But I think it's up to each athlete. And I don't think Quinn Simmons is really, I don't want to say giving a rat's about it, but, that's for him to deal with, I think, at this point.
Right.
He just keep winning bike races, and I don't think anybody's really going to care.
Right. So you called me on a personal level, I'm sure. Is there anything you want to discuss? And I'll give you a call back as soon as I'm done here.
Yeah. How about you give me a call back when you get done? And because, I don't want any medical positive tests coming out on the open air.
Right.
Podcast.
Maybe we'll come. Maybe you'll join me next week. We'll do a live one, and you can talk about your Betsy Andreo moment.
Oh yeah, the quality. It just all flashed. That's great. That'll be a good one.
All right. Take care. Bye. There you go, people. That's how we do it on the podcast. We just bring you right in. So be careful if you call me. So you have the last sprint, and DeQuani Quick-Step is getting kind of overrun. And other teams are barging up in the front there. And Cavendish does the immortal sin. He leaves his Morkov lead out guy, and everyone's probably been through this, and he leaves him and he tries to jump on the Wout train. And what does Wout do? Wout gets a great lead out by Tunison up the left-hand side. You've got Philipsen over on his right-hand side. And there's a chance there where Cavendish could come to the right of Wout, because Wout's on the left on the barrier. He could come to the right of Wout and kind of make up there. But he had already done too much work trying to get up into position. He was before the last 1.5K, he was probably 20 people back, and he was making moves back to get to his spot up front. So he's got maybe a little bit more dead legs. Philipsen close that gap. Now he's got to he being Mark has to try to go through on the left side. The barriers are there. By the time he tries to actually sprint and get clear, Wout is already pummeled him. Philipsen gets second. Cavendish gets third, and Eddie Merckx holds his record. I believe, though, that Lance Armstrong, and I know he's DQ'd and all this stuff, and he's, by the way, I don't listen to his podcast. I think he's full of whatever. He's just not he's annoying to me, but he still won all these races in my mind. So I think he won 33 road races, 6 or 7 team time trials. So he actually would have had that record. Now the debate goes, who is the better rider? Is it more impressive that Merckx won them from, and by the way, Belgian holding the record keeping it at bay. Wout, that is, from for another Belgium, kind of getting a tie. So you have a tie here. Who's maybe got the tiebreaker? Cavendish only wins road races as far as sprints go. Merckx, won sprints. He won time trials. He won mountain stages. For me, I get arguments on both ways. I mean, one, when you start winning, you're only going to see someone like a GC guy that it's going to be no gifts given type of thing. Maybe a Pogacar at some point. Winning young, that's going to get this record if it ever gets broken, because you've got to start throwing off strings of 4 or 5 stages every Tour de France. And that's the thing the sprinter can do. You get a train, you get these X many stages going in there. And if it comes down to the finish, and even though you bring everybody to the finish with you, that bringing everyone to the finish actually eliminates a bunch of people, because once those people all come to the finish, you've only got maybe 5 or 6 guys that are really a threat to you if you're a top quality sprinter. And this year, there wasn't as many top quality sprinters, and that's why you saw Mark Cavendish with 4. And when he got put in trouble and he nearly needed to rely on his team, and actually Wout seemed to be just getting fitter and fitter and fitter, boom, he was not, and he got 3rd place on the day. So as far as that goes, that was pretty solid. What do we have for your final GC? Pogacar gets the win over Vingegaard, who was 5:20, actually outdid him in the last time trial. Carapaz 7:03, O'Connor 10:02, Kelderman 10:13, Enric Mas 11:43. The points won by Cavendish over Matthews and Cabrelli and Philipsen. The KOM by Pogacar over Wout Poels, Vingegaard, Wout, Bennett, and Quintana. Woods withdrew at stage 18 with 72 points, so that would have put him in 4th with there. Pretty cool that we actually had climbers going for the jersey this year. And then the youth jersey, of course, Pogacar, Vingegaard at 5:20, and Gadu at 21:50. Paulus 7th place at 2 hours 13 minutes. The team, like I said, Bahrain, the only team to get rated. EF Nippo in 2nd, and then Jumbo big, and Nippo is 19 minutes down, and then Team Jumbo Visma in 3rd at 1 hour and 11. So really broke their back as far as that goes. Otherwise, Tour de France, always exciting. It's great to see again this year. I would love to see a Bernal, Roglic, Pogacar, Geraint Thomas, fit Geraint Thomas in the mix. Whoever else is Evan Pohl coming in, and it would be kind of a little more exciting to see that. You saw a much different race this year. You saw more chaos. Team UAE deciding not to control things like it was. We had the 4 Americans in there. Sepp Kuss gets a win. Nelson Paulus was always in the moves. Sean Bennett was up in the break a few times. And then McNulty didn't have a chance to do any of that because he was sometimes crashing, other times crashing, but protecting his team leader. And he did a phenomenal ride for him. Kind of reminded me of the Brent Bookwalter type, where you're not a superstar like Sepp Kuss, but you're always there. You're always helping your guy out. And that's what we saw there. So once again, we had Tour of Wallonie. Now we have coming up the Olympics. And I thought we'd just go through the Olympic course. It looks pretty brutal. It actually kind of reminds me of, I think it was the Innsbruck in 2018 when Mike Woods ended up getting 3rd place there that year. And it's 234 kilometers, bunch of 5,000 plus meters of climbing. They go around Mount Fuji. They have this other kicker about 30K from the finish that looks super steep, and then another clip up, and then it goes downhill. So it looks like to me it's going to be hot there. I think they all have to wear masks the whole race. I'm kidding. By the way, seen some of you on Facebook riding your bikes, pictures, wearing a mask. Yeah, you want to explain that one? Outside, you're not even inside. Which I don't know if that make any difference, but yeah, way to use your brain. So it's going to be hot there. They're going off, I think, this starting tomorrow. So Mike Sayers, our Grand DS, it's going to be the DS for the U.S. team for Lawson, Craddock, and McNulty. We only have 2. I really put them in the mix, but I mean, coming off the tour, McNulty might be firing good, get a chance to get in the move. Who knows? Lawson, Craddock, if it's something like, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, he could be riding well for that. So 2 of the best possible, well, I'd say Sepp would be your best possible outcome for this, but 2 really decent picks we finally get for a race of this caliber, but only 2 riders. I mean, other teams are having 5 or 6. So it'll be an interesting development to see. Of course, the women's team's probably going to be dominated by the Belgians or the Netherlands. I mean, so who knows if anybody else have a chance in that race for the women. Then we got the CT. I imagine it's going to be your Ghana, Kung, and Wout. And for the women, we'll see if Chloe Dygert has a chance of doing much of anything. But point is, this race got a lot of climbing stuff to it. Like I said, I reckon it back to the Innsbruck stuff, which means this Alejandro Valverde won that year, and you had Mike Woods in third, and I think you're going to have a chance for him to do well again this year, being in the race as well. He was doing pretty good. He kept crashing over in the Tour de France, but he got a few extra days in a week or so. He probably is going to be fine. We had some other races here locally. Tour. It was Lamb Park and then Bariani Road Race. I put out a short video of showing John, who just called in, to see how our last lap and a half was before my crash, at least, for the race where we had to chase some people. And basically my thoughts on that race, maybe I wanted to put a full video out sometime, was there's 4 guys up the road. 2 of them are on the same team, which are Pete's, deadly. We want to win. What's the point of sprinting for a field sprint? For 5th place, it doesn't mean anything. So John can do well, and he could do well surfing. So I'm like, that break has to come back. So I'm chasing it down because you do first things first, which is let's get the break, let's get it back, let's get it all together, and then to see if I have anything left. Well, as soon as I was almost catching the break, John filled the last bit. We caught the break with about half lap to go, and he had to surf wheels. He shoots his sprint out probably a little too early, but it's a bike throw for the finish. Scott Cox ends up winning. John was second, and our friend Matt Tufts, who by the way has COVID, get well, John. Matt ended up third. So we had a good time there. Go to Bariani the next day. I guess it's kind of a shit show. There's fighting. There's all kinds of wheel chopping, and sounds like a little bit of we're not going to get into all that because tempers flare. But people, if you're adults and you're just doing this as an amateur, don't take this too seriously. All right. So the Olympics should be coming up for you soon. I hope you guys enjoy that. I'm sure there's still more bike racing. I know Paris-Roubaix is going to happen later on in the year. Maybe Quinn Simmons is going to feature in there, and then you can rip him some more, because it is not fine for him to have different thoughts than you. That's what we've come to realize first and foremost, then everything else. Other than that, my health, I'm getting back into it. Hopefully my bike's been fixed. Hopefully I will be able to ride here in the next, and when I say ride, I've got a doctor visit to follow up this next week. Our friend Scott Hooper is finally off the ventilator. Just heard that today. He's trying to figure out how to breathe, but he's been on a ventilator for almost a week. So we're really glad that he's at least there. And then they're trying to, obviously, ribs are all broken, his sternum's broken. Good Lord, I feel for this kid. So he's an adult, but still feel for him. And we're hoping everything is going to come fine with him. Thoughts and prayers out to him. I don't know if you want to reach out if anybody knows anything, and I'll try to keep updates here. But once again, he's off the ventilator and trying to fix everything else they can for there. So thanks, everybody. Between Two Wheels podcast, episode 245. I hope it pissed you off just a little bit about Quinn Simmons. By the way, like I said, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about a lot of stuff. I don't care about Meyerson's politics. I don't care about his personal life. I don't care about Phil Guyman's. Do they ride? Do they race? Do I enjoy that? Possibly. Because that's what we're here for, everybody. Take care.